Hello and welcome. My name is Adam Lane, and this is the search for terrestrial intelligence. So my past few podcasts have been going on about my holistic diagnosis of the human condition and trying to track an origin point, or trying to track a route to the overall condition that humanity has found itself in. Now, I come from the perspective that humanity has been inhibited in our progress, in our growth, and I point directly to human domestication as one of the main causes of that inhibited progress. When I look at humanity's progress right now, I don't think it's that much of a stretch to even say that we are in a state of arrested development. Now there are changes that are being made, in technology and technology. I can't really actually think of any other major advances that are happening in the world right now, because the rest of it I look at being suppressed. I look at it being inhibited and as I said, in a state of arrested development. And this is, I think, a very dangerous state for humanity to be in, because of the point I was making in the other podcast, that our technology has advanced at a much greater rate and much further than our awareness or understanding of consciousness. It does seem that humanity is perched on this precarious ledge, and you wonder, what's it going to take to push us over the edge? I've focused on the holistic diagnosis in trying to grasp what's at the base, what's at the root cause. If you look at humanity as a whole, and then you look at human civilization as a living system, then you can diagnose the condition that invites the pathogen. What I'm saying is that instead of putting a whole lot of time and focus on analyzing each and every pathogen, we look at the living system as a whole and we diagnose its vitality, its condition. In the same way, with a living organism, you would try your best to boost the immune system so that the immune system has what's necessary to create a defense against multiple different pathogens. So instead of insulating yourself from the dangers in the world, you look at supporting the organism, or in supporting the living system. So, as I was pointing out before, we clearly have a problem in our world with the rise of authoritarian, tyrannical governments. What if there was a way of developing in ourselves a natural resistance to tyranny? What if you could eliminate fear? What if you could eliminate the belief that authority must be listened to? What if you could support the human living system to the point where it is impervious to the pressures that a tyranny would exert upon them, as you would if you were developing self-reliance? The more self-reliant a people becomes, the less pressure and influence a authoritarian government would have upon them. For instance, right now we have the threat of the CBDCs coming into use. That's the central bank digital currencies. And if that happens and people allow it, if people just go along with it and consent to all of the money being shifted into a central bank digital currency, well, now they have, push button control over all of your finances. Now at the switch of a button, you can become a non-existent entity. You will, if we allow social credit systems, if we allow central bank digital currencies, if we allow all of the different things that the proponents of the Great Reset and the Fourth Industrial Revolution are suggesting, that's such a great idea. They're trying to tell people that this is a great idea. Just go along with it, right? Just let it happen. And if people did that, there wouldn't be much you could do for people at that point. You're talking about a post-human captive civilization. I'm insisting that we are trapped, not captive. That's one of the reasons I really wanted to focus on the idea of human domestication. Because when you look at a domesticated species, what you're seeing is an epigenetic transformation that occurred when a wild species was taken and placed in a controlled environment, and all of their life, all of their food, shelter, and what they need to survive is provided for them. Then they literally stop doing what's necessary to provide for themselves. As soon as that happens, that's where the people or the animals are cut off. Now they can't do these things for themselves because they have been insulated from the natural instincts and the capability, the mental focus and awareness that kind of lifestyle takes. And after they're cut off like that, then they become helpless. That's why I was pointing to the study of learned helplessness. So what I'm talking about is understanding the science behind how humanity has been controlled, because if there's a science to controlling humanity, that by definition means there's a science to freeing humanity, to becoming once again a free human. I've always really been encouraged by the story about how domesticated pigs that return to the wild and have gone feral literally change. Okay, what I'm talking about is that what is called the domestication syndrome is an epigenetic change to a species. Their original genetic expression is not lost, but because the environment changed so heavily, the species, physical expression of their DNA changes. That's what's called epigenetic changes to your genetic expression. And what's encouraging about the story about the feral pigs is that when they returned to the wild, when they went feral, their fur started to come back just like a wild boar. Their colorations changed. Their snout gets longer. Their tusks start to grow back. And not only did their physical expression change, their behavior changed. They started to remember what it was to be a wild boar. And so then they become nocturnal, they start foraging, and then they start reverting to, living the way a wild boar lived before they were domesticated. Okay, but this is the thing about the wild boar. Those changes happen within months of a domesticated pig going wild. But it took over 10,000 years to domesticate the pig. So the changes that you see in the domesticated pig took thousands and thousands of years to achieve through the breeding programs, through domesticated breeding programs, but the reversion happens in 3 months? That's amazing to me. That's really amazing to me. So my suggestion is that people learn to disconnect from the incoherent, out of balance system that surrounds them, and then reconnect. For instance, when our phone needs charged, we simply plug it in. Well, this is what I'm suggesting that people do. humanity it is so cut off, so separate, so unaware that it is surrounded by a living, coherent, responsive, intelligent system. This is what David Bohm calls the implicate order. When you look at nature, you see that there is an inherent, coherent order that all things emerge out of and return to. And so humanity has cut themselves off. My point is that we can reconnect. By simply walking away from the path of death, the cut off, incoherent, artificial system that humanity has surrounded itself with, that civilization emerged out of, and then coming into environments where there's still balance, there's still vitality, and then reconnecting to that inseparable implicate order that will always be there, waiting for humanity to remember, waiting for us to just return and remember that all it takes is just to plug in. All it takes is to reconnect. We weren't always subservient to the dominant subset of the human species. There is literally a subset to the human species that controls and has dominated humanity since the dawn of civilization. That subset thrives off of humanity in a parasitic way. Like vampires or like parasites, that all of their energy comes from those that they dominate and those that they control. They produce nothing. They haven't the ability to be self-reliant and self-sustaining because they live off of their control of others. So, to me, that's pretty basic. You just remove yourself from participating in that control. You stop feeding the beast. You stop feeding them our power. We stop giving them that sustenance that these vampires live off of. We just let them go. Do it, bye. Good luck with that, And so what I'm saying is we don't do that in the same way, in the domineering, conquering way that the subset that controls the rest of humanity has always done, through violence, coercion, and force. The thing is what they control us with is ourself. By disconnecting humanities from their ability to be self-sufficient, when the hunter and gatherer was stolen from a life of freedom and forced into an agrarian lifestyle, because that's literally what happened. Nobody did this voluntarily. That super strong, coherent, capable, free human became insulated then from that, what strengthens them, from what I'm saying we need to plug back into, that gives the vitality, that takes away the fear, that gives the bravery, the courage, and the strength to be a self-reliant free human. When they took that away, we became afraid. We became fearful. What am I going to do to survive? And then, especially like in a feudal situation, all of every place where your sustenance comes from, every place where the energy of your life comes from, the fields that you grow your crops in, they belong to the royalty. You own, as they say in the Great Reset, you will own nothing and be happy. No, you won't be happy unless you are heavily medicated. That's a neo-feudalistic society that they're saying. It sounds like a great idea, but it's not. Let me tell you. What they're describing to you is that the cages that the human domesticated animal is living in will become inescapable. That's what they're telling you. That's what neo-feudalism is. That's why they want you to own nothing, because then your learned helplessness and your insecurity will be too great for you to do anything against, for you to resist in any kind of way. And this is what we need to do. We need to stand up for ourselves and walk away, exit and build a new way, a new life, a new society. The civilization that we live in right now was broken in the beginning. We can't fix that. We need to ignore the politics of today. We could create a living system that is resistant to tyranny. I think it's possible. I really do. And we're a long way from that right now. But I think we can create living systems that are resistant to tyranny. That's why I call this podcast The Search for Terrestrial Intelligence. Because the terrestrial intelligence is what we were disconnected from. That's what we plug back into. You just take yourself and plug it back in. So, I'm losing my light. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. My name is Adam Lane, and this is The Search for Terrestrial Intelligence.